Hello, Stephanie Toman here again. This is a set of video-based learning materials that will take you step by step through the queries section with regard to the Advanced ICDL database qualification. So we'll be looking at certain areas within queries, start off with creating a simple query and then showing you how to do summaries with regards to sum, count, average, maximum, minimum values, using a group by and parameters and wildcards, all really good useful tools within queries. Remember also that you have the slides as well as part of your materials, so if you want a snapshot of these things that we're looking at, you can also have a look at those. So we're going to start with our database materials with regard to the database files that we can open, and we're going to open up the premises. Okay, so we're going to create a query of our own. So we're going to the create area, query design, brings up the grid that we need, and we're going to use the commercial table, which is over here. So you can drag and drop it, or you can double click on it, whichever way you want to use it. You can expand these areas as well. We're going to use the location field and the price field. So you can see that if I run that, all I've got is all of the locations and all of the prices. So if we want to apply a summary to this and do a sum total on the price, then what we're going to do is we're going to activate the totals column by clicking on the sigma sign up here, the totals sign. Click that and then we get the totals group by. Drop the one down with the price and click on the sum, and then when I run that I get a whole different result, and what I'm doing is getting a snapshot with regard to the sum of all of the properties in that area. Okay, and then back again. Remember that it's only a snapshot with a query until you save it, and then it becomes something that you can run, modify and change. So that's how we would do that. Let's now note that this summary query has the totals on. You can take that off again and it's removed, and you can see now that when I run it, it hasn't got that sum option in there. So if we were going to do another one, let's do a count. So I've removed it, I can drop this down and I get an ascending. So remember, I have to remember to do the totals to bring it in, and then I can change the sum to a count. And then if I run that, you can see that it counts the prices for those particular locations. Okay. And it comes up, notice that it says count of price, so it sort of puts that in front of it, and then you can see that what you're using as your summary option, count for example, and they can bring back a single value of that count. Okay, so let's just remove this. So you can remove these by highlighting them and deleting them. So you can just cut them, or you can highlight them and use the delete key, one way or the other, and that removes them from the grid. We've still got the table up here as well. So what we're going to do now is do some average values. So this time we're going to put add the field type of premises. So you can see if you come down, you should be able to find it. If not, just there it is there. Double click on it to drop it on the grid. And we're going to use the price again. So this time we've got the group by on already. So what we're going to do is add the price with the average. Click in the average there. Let's run that. And they're all examples of the average price of those particular premises. If we wanted to add something more, we could go back and we could add the lift. So we've got the lift, and then what we're going to do is we want some criteria along here to say only those premises with a lift, we want those to be averaged only. So we can type in a yes, click away, and then run that query, and you'll get only the average prices of those premises with a lift. So you can see how you can manipulate these quite a lot, move things around, and change what it is, what the information is you want. So you're actually getting a snapshot of the things that you need. You could also, we could get rid of the lift, as we did before. We could take that out. So pointing down black arrow like that, hit the delete key, and we could bring in a price again. So you can do these fields more than once with different things going on. So if we just drop the price down there, make sure it drops on. And then if we use the price as we have, we could have a max here. So maximum price of a particular type of premises, and we could have a minimum here. So if we run that, you can see that we get two lots of information, and we can see the differences in price with regard to that. So lots of different ways that we could do these things using all of these summary options so far. So we've got now, if we move one of the prices, let's take this one out, delete key, and then we're going to add the address field. So there it is there. Double click on it. Let's have a look and see what that looks like. So you can see you've got an address now, and then back into here. So you can see we now have no totals on. We have our three fields. Like I said, we have a look at them. And what we can do is we can run the top however we want. So up in here, you've got the top values. If you hover on things when you're not sure about what it is, you'll get your tooltips, and they will tell you exactly what that feature does. So if we drop that down, we could have the top 25. In this case, probably not too many. We could have the top 5, and then we can run, and we can see that if we change it again to the top 25 and run, and that way it leaves off those that you're not interested in, if that's what you want to do. If you want to widen out columns, you've got this truncated just between the actual columns. Double click, and you've got an auto fit there. It's like a bit of a, or you can do a drag and drop if you really want to space things out to yourselves. So yeah, that's how we use the way to use the different summaries that we can use. And we're going to move on to some calculated fields now. So I'll have a look at that next. Okay, so we're going to open the pets next, and we're going to look at some calculated fields in queries. Now, based upon the pet details, we're going to create a new query like we did before. Create tab, and then click on the query design. We've got our pet details here. Let's drag it over and drop, and we're going to drop down the animal, price, and number sold. Just those three there, as you can see. So this is what we're going to use, and we're going to use the fourth column to do a calculation. So we're going to start with total amount. This calculation is going to look at the total amount for each type of the pet that was sold. So what we have is we have our title, make sure I put the T on the end, then a colon, so that separates it from the actual calculation. We use square brackets for a field, so we do our calculation field by field that's available within the database. So we do our square brackets, and then we're going to do the price, close square brackets. Then we use the as what we call the operators, as you may know from Access databases, and obviously in Excel as well. We've got like the multiplication, divide, add, and minus. So in this case, we're going to multiply. So we're going to use the asterisk. That stands for multiplication. Then the square brackets again, and this time we're going to type in the number sold. So these, and the bracket, square bracket again, these fields need to be typed in exactly as they are in the database in order for them to work. Now we need to make sure that it's displayed as well, because that's not automatic ticked like the others. If this is ticked, you will see it on the front end of your query when you run it. So let's just run it now and see what happens. And there we've got the total amount. You can see that that's the title that we put in. and then the actual calculation comes after the colon, and it's done by the field by field. So you've got the price there, the numbers sold, and it calculates times in them together. So really useful within an Access database to use calculations. It's just remembering how that they're set out really, and you can just create your own using field by field and operators. Okay, let's have a look at another one. Let's look at a return. So we've got some criteria, so we can actually add to this as well. So in the total amount field, so we've actually created a calculation, and we can also put in some criteria. So we could put greater than 10, for example, and we could run that. And you can see that it will bring back, still using criteria, even though we've used a total calculation column, all of those things still apply that they would normally to other fields. So that all works lovely. And then we can also, after seeing which animals are greater than £10, we can also use logical expressions. So we could add a new field to the query and add this if. So once again, into the next available column, notice that I type if with 2 I's, not IF, it's double I if, and that's in Access databases. This time what we've got is we've got a normal Excel type bracket parameter. Then we've got a square for the field, and we're going to put in total amount because this is the field that we're dealing with. Then square bracket to hold that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do what we call a normal if. So we've got greater than 50. Then, so we've got our comma. We want big to come back, so we have to put speech marks around it. The tab, so you hold the shift and the one above the 2, speech marks. We've got so we've got big, speech marks again, then or if not or else, as they say, speech marks again, small. Quite a lot to think about. Okay, so you can double click on this junction here if you want to sort of like see things a little bit more, or drag and drop, so you can see the full amount that you've done. If we run it, does it work? There's something missing, so let's just go back to it. And you can see straight away, if you like, that the bracket at the end, that round bracket, has to be at the end as well, because that's what it's like in Excel as well. You have to have a parenthesis at the front and one at the end. So let's make sure that we show it as well. Always remember to do that, and then run it. And there you go. You can actually have an if within a query on databases, and it can include a total amount that's calculated. So it's like taking a step each time to show how that can build and how it can work. We can also, another thing that we can do is within that total amount, if we just go back to here, the total amount column in the query is in the grid, but it's not in the design tab in the property sheet. So what we need to do is we need to go to the property sheet. So there's your property sheet up here. So click in the total amount first, this one, into the property sheet up there. Go to the format and close this if you wish, so you can see a little bit more. And in the format, if you drop it down, and you can make the field within it fixed. So the data within it can be fixed. You can also have standard, you could have euro, all of these different ways of representing that run when you run it. So if we run it now, you can see that that's fixed. If we go back and we take the fixed off, and just put general on and run it, you can see it's quite different. So you can change how it looks again with another sort of step. Because you've done it as a calculation, you have to change the property fields in order to have an effect on it. And then when you run it, it looks like that, so you can have it fixed. And you could also change the caption. So we've got still clicking on here. If we go into the design view, into that property sheet again, so highlight it that way, property sheet as it came up there, and then you've got the caption. And what you can do is you can actually enter the text value in pounds. Go back. Isn't an item in the list. Oh, we probably have to click on there again. Go to the property sheet, into the format, and we can actually do pound. Let's try that one. Accepts that, runs it, and that's because it wants it there. But you can see what's happened to this one because we changed that caption, that heading. This has now changed as well. So if we went back into there and clicked in there, we would then go in to do a caption, as we could do the whatever you want, size maybe, and then run that. You can see that you can change that heading as well. So lots of little things you can do. Sort of, you hesitate, you have a look, try it out if you're happy with it. So remember that you can do these things in here, but you can also, in the design view, you can drill down and go into property sheets and do things there. So you see things differently. In here, you see it one way. On the front end, when you run it, you see another way with the caption there as well. And the other one that came up, you got the look up there. We've got nothing going on there, but if you sort of like go into the property sheets, you can change how things look again. So the final thing that we are going to look at in this one is the parameter queries, final things, and then using wildcards in a query. So this is the one that's covered the calculations. Have a go at it. Remember the rules. Remember the round brackets and the square brackets for fields. And you can then, because you could put a sum in front of something and use a round bracket instead of the if, and that would total something up. And then use the just the square brackets for the field that you want to total. So have a little play with that. It's definitely worth doing. And we're moving on to the parameters. Thank you. Okay, then parameter queries. So if the query's been run frequently and all that's changing is the selection of criteria from one or two fields, you can use a parameter query. It'll display a dialog box where it prompts you to put in some criteria. And then once that criteria is entered, it will then perform what you've asked and bring it up as a selected criteria that you're looking for when you run it. So let's have a look at how we can create them. So we're going to open the premises database for doing this. I'm going to create a new query. So I'm going to click on the create as before, click on the query design, and it's going to be based on the commercial table. So I can double click to bring it on, or I can drag and drop, it doesn't matter. The fields I'm going to use are location, address, type of premises, and price. Now let's say I did one in the wrong place or something, and I had two prices. Before I've showed you how you delete them with a key, but you can also drag them. So if we just hold it, you can see that I can drag this somewhere else. And then I could delete it if I wanted to. So if you make mistakes with regard to dropping things down, you don't need to start all over again. You can manipulate that grid to what you want. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use a parameter query in the location field in the criteria area. So when we use parameters, we use the square brackets, something that we're starting to use quite a lot. And then put in the typing, enter area required. So we're looking at the area that we want, and we're going to close it with a square bracket. So if I run the query, it will ask me to enter particular criteria. Now I know that some of the criteria has got dot lines on it. you would know your data too. And when I click on OK, nothing comes up. And the reason is that when I typed in Docklands, it's actually Dockland. So you can see how that can make such a difference when you're putting in criteria, just adding an S. Remember, database is really about accuracy and about exactness. So you have to put exactly what it is within there. So same with the fields, when you use the fields for your calculations, etc. in square brackets, they have to be exactly as they are. And then if we looked at the property list in a report, you can see you've got loads of them there. And if we just close that, if you look at the commercial, you can see all of the information, and here's all the different areas for the location. So all of that stuff is all in the database already. What we're doing is using parameters to bring that out, which includes the address, the type of premises, and the price of the premises. So back to the grid again. So just be aware that if you're going to use criteria within a parameter, watch the wording, because you cannot use the same wording as a heading. So if I wanted to find out, if I wanted to use location instead of enter area required, then I would have to do something like put a question mark after it so that it distinguishes it from the field name. So just be aware of that when you're doing these parameters. So we've got that, we've done the Dockland and it's okay. So let's now go to the criteria into the premises, type of premises, and put in which premises type. So that's what we're going to do. Click in here, square bracket, which premises, says with an S, remember, type. And I can put a question mark on it, makes sense. And if I run that, it gives me an internet area. So remember that we were looking at the Dockland last time. Now we're going to look at Riverside Complex. And when I OK, it now comes up with which premises type as another parameter. And I'm going to put office premises in there. Make sure I get that S on. Then when I OK, it's given me the criteria for the location, and it's given me the criteria for the type of premises. Okay, so let's use a different type of parameter using range selections and logical operators, are add, minus, multiply and divide. I've taken all the criteria out of here where we had the parameters in the location and the type of premises, and we're going to use the price field now to actually type a parameter in of our own, and it's got to have it's got things like greater than and equal to, so we can get things between certain criteria. So we're going to use the greater than, equal to, square bracket, that's where we're putting our parameter in, from lower value, square bracket, and then we've got and then we've got less than, oops, there we go, less than and equal to, and we're going to put in to upper inner square brackets again, to upper value, square brackets. You can take any, I've got a little space in there, you don't need any spaces or anything. If we drag it out just to double check it, we've got greater than, equal to from lower value, and less than, greater to and equal to upper value. And notice how the and has been changed for us automatically by Access, as it does. If we now run that, we've got to put some criteria in. So if we put in a 1 and 5 zeros, okay, and then if we put a 2 and 5 zeros. And what we're looking for is those prices are premises, office premises or manufacturing units, doesn't matter, type of premises, that is in between 100,000 and 200,000. So it's another way of doing it. So you can really refine these things if you want to use the operators, logical operators and range selections. So what I'm going to do next is we're going to have a look at the wildcards. Okay, so the final one we're going to look at within the queries section are using wildcards in queries, really useful. I'm going to use the staff database, open that up and have a look in there. So characters in the standard database modules, for example in the foundation, ICDL foundation, we looked at question marks which act as characters, so they act as letters, missing letters, and asterisks for anything following or anything else that follows a particular letter. We looked at hashes for instead of numbers, but this one's got a few more in it. It's got square brackets, it's got a hyphen, exclamation mark, etc. So let's have a look and see how we can use these to bring up information. Okay, by using the staff database, we're going to create a new query. Let's pop this out of the way there. And on the Create tab, there it is, and the query design. It's going to be based on the test list, so double click on that, and it's all of the fields, so we can bring them all down onto the grid. So the one we're going to use is the first name. So looks like I missed that, so let's bring that one down, as you do. And remember before, as I showed you, you can, a bit tricky, you can grab it as there and drop it wherever it is that you want it. Okay, it might even be the one next to it. It doesn't really matter, it's where you want it. Okay, so in the first name we have the criteria area. So the criteria, what I'm going to type in is a T, a question mark, and an M. So what this should do is when I click away, it should put a like in front of it and a speech mark around the letter, the character that stands for any letter missing, and also before the end, which is where the M is. If we run it, what we should get is anybody whose name has 3 letters starting with T and ending in M. So you can see that that character, that question mark, stands for anything that's a letter, any different letter that's in between T and M will come up. Okay, so let's try something else. So what we could do, double click in here, and we could use what they call the square bracket. So instead of the character, we've got a square bracket, and we're going to use A, E, O, and square bracket again. And what that means is that if you run the query, any characters from A, E, or O is allowed in the wildcard. So if we run it, so an O is allowed, but the I wasn't that we had for Tim earlier. Let's just see if we can zoom in on this. Let's have a look and see if we can make this a little bit bigger. Okay, maybe a little bit too much zoom, but that will help you to see what I'm doing. So then if we go into it again, if we go back, escape, down again, what we can do is we can actually use a exclamation mark, and that exclamation mark in front of the A, E, and O, just above the one, holding the shift, will actually, when I run it, will make sure that I can use anything with regard to characters except the A, E, or O. So that's a sort of like a not. And if we try to bring that in again, just to show you what I've done, you can see that there's that exclamation mark there. The other things we can do, always using this, just as our example, is we can have an in-between characters. So I could go into here again, and I could have an A hyphen, you know, we talked about using a hyphen, and N, and get rid of the others. So what that is I've got still got my T at the beginning, still got my M at the end, but I've got anything in between there that will be accepted. So if I run that, I've got the Tom, because that comes in with between A and N. And just to zoom in on that again, just to show you, that's the way that it looks up close. There's other things that we can use. For example, I think when we used it at the standard level, you could have things like so many characters. So if you wanted to bring up Joe, you could put J with two characters, which is 2 question marks. That would bring up Joe, but it wouldn't bring up Joseph or Josephine, etc. So you have to have exact amount of characters or the symbol that you're using to bring up what you need. Another thing is, let's get rid of this and let's look at some data. So what we can do is in the employment number, because we know if we just run this, we know that the employee number's got some numbers in it. So if we use a criteria like, got our speech marks, 5 hashes represent any number, end of speech marks, click on that and run, and then you get your anything that starts with 5 and 2 digits. So what you could also do the 3 digits, so we could do the other way round. So let's just show you that up close. So we've done before, so you can see that you've got the 5 and where you've got your speech marks and your like, etc. And sometimes it will do it for you, sometimes it won't. So if we put take out the 5 and put a 3 on the end and try that, let's run that, and then it gives us anything with 3 on the end, and as I've done before, just a point. It's quite tiny. That's sort of like doing it like that. So you can see that these wildcards can be really useful in searching for stuff that meets certain parameters or certain criteria in this case. So you can play around with them. You can find phone numbers that start with maybe, like they've got a particular postcode, area code and things like that by using this, and then using the hashes to represent the numbers as long as they're the correct amount and things like that. So that's the end of the queries. Remember, there are the PowerPoint slides as well that you can have a little look through, and you can see that here they are. They will help to remind you, maybe could be a revision purpose or things like that, and you can see sort of some of the things that I've done within here. Okay, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you on another series if you want to join me. Thank you.